Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev, where today we continue working on our long-term open-ended survival RPG. Now, last time we continued focusing on our hunting feature by adding reactionary AI to hunting targets. This included two sets of behaviors, one for aggressive targets and one for non-aggressive targets. Each behavior had their own reactions to the player being detected via their vision cone. It was a great step forward for our hunting feature, one we're taking a break from today to focus on something else entirely. Today we'll start working on a farming feature. However, while we will be mostly focusing on the farming aspect, the system we'll be using will be used for more than just farming. So to create our farming feature, we'll be building a tile system that can be modified in real time with hopefully minimal impact to performance. Now, I'm really excited for what this could mean for future additions, so let's not waste any more time and get to the coding. First, we were going to need some tiles to draw into our tile system. For now, we'll just need a default tile, which will be grass, and an alternate tile, which will be dirt, or mud, a brown substance of some sort that is not poop. Well, it can be poop if you want it to be. Anyway, moving on to the object which will control this whole thing. We'd need width and height variables that break down our room into tile spaces. And because I've yet to grasp the changes to tiles in GameMaker Studio 2, we're going with drawn sprites. And as a test, indeed, drawing sprites the full width and height of the room had a major impact on performance. So to pull this off was gonna require some extra finesse. So back to the code, a DS grid was created based on our width and height variables. Then via loop, each grid space was filled with data for the default grass sprite. Then in the draw code, we'd only draw sprites that were within the view of the player. Basically, this is an attempt to mimic region activation, but with drawn sprites. So using a mixture of variables and math, tiles were drawn based on the player's position instead of all at once. And the image drawn in that tile is determined based on the corresponding data from the DS grid. Testing showed promise with a large chunk of tiles being drawn near the player. And with a few tweaks to counter that chunk would give us the effect we were after. The chunk was then enlarged a bit, so the tiles weren't seen popping in and out of existence. And there we had it, a seamless display of tiles based on DS grid data. And the best part about this is it has very little impact on performance. So now that our tiles are being drawn, we needed to create a way to modify them. Moving to the player code, an out variable was added. Enums for tools were also added to make this less confusing. Then in the player code, we check if the out variable was set to the shovel. I wasn't sure about the best way to go about this, so for now I simply drew a square in front of whatever direction the player is facing. Then when the player uses the shovel, the grass sprite stored at that position in the DS grid is changed to dirt. And don't worry if you're confused, what you're looking at is the code not working. After checking and rechecking the code over and over again, I realized my error. Here you can see the X position for every tile being drawn. They're all the same and move with the player. This was due to forgetting to add the player's position to the math, so the tiles being displayed weren't relative. With that fixed, however, the code worked perfectly and just as we needed it to, meaning tiles could be updated without any extra objects or scripts. And if nothing about this made any sense, allow me to try and explain. We drew a DS grid the same width and height as our room, broken down into equally sized tiles. Each space in the DS grid was given a sprite to draw. Because drawing all those sprites at once would hurt performance, we'd only draw those that need to be seen. Those tiles are determined based off the player's position. So for example, if the player's position is 10 by 10 in the world, only the sprites based around 10 by 10 in the grid would be drawn. This results in the illusion of all tiles being drawn at once, when in reality we're only displaying a few at a time. Hopefully that makes sense, because the beauty of this is, again, gonna help us a lot in the future. This should result in things like farming not impacting performance as much as I'd feared, and it should also mean good things for other features I have planned down the line. But like always, those plans will have to wait, because this brings us to the end of today's episode of Let's Dev. So leave a like if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts on our progress in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.